Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show. You know who this is. We already told you about her yesterday. That's Lissa Lucas, and she's a candidate for West Virginia House of Delegates, District 7. But guess what? She went to her state capital she traveled 100 miles from her home in Cairo, West Virginia, to the state capital in Charleston on Friday to testify against an oil and gas industry-sponsored bill that would allow companies to drill on minority mineral owners' land without their consent, and she thought it would be a good idea to shed some light on it, to let everybody know that the people who are going to be deciding this issue, how much money they actually took from the company that they're supposed to be regulating. And here's how that went.
I'd also like to point out that the people who are going to be speaking in favor of this bill are all going to be paid by the industry, and the people who are going to be voting on this bill are also often paid by the industry. For example, and I have to keep it short simply because the public only gets a minute 45, while lobbyists can throw a gala at the Marriott with whiskey and wine and talk for hours to the delegates. So to keep it short, on the Judiciary Committee, Charlotte Lane, about $10,000 from gas and oil interests, including AEP, Marathon, First Energy, Dominion, EQT, and I could go on. Next, let's talk about John Schott from Mercer. First Energy, $2,000. Appalachian Power, $2,000. Steptoe and Johnson, that's a gas and oil law firm, $2,000. Consol Energy, $1,000. EQT, $1,000. And I could go on. Now let's talk about Jason Harshbarger.
Ms. Lucas, we ask no personal comments be made. If you want to talk about
this is not personal comments.
it is a personal comment, and I'm going to call you out of order if you're talking about individuals on the committee. So if you would just address the bill. If not, I'll ask you to please step down.
Jason Harshbarger took $3,500, about 40% of his money comes from gas and oil, including Dominion, EQT, First Energy, Next Terra Energy. I want to finish. Drag me off then. People deserve someone who are going to fight for people and
So that's what happened. And now that video went viral. And so what they were trying to suppress, it actually backfired on them. And guess who we have with us today to come talk to us? It's Lissa Lucas. She's here, that young lady right there who just got manhandled on her way out the door trying to do a public service and expose corruption inside of her state government. Lissa, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Right. Well, first of all, thanks for doing that. I appreciate you doing that. And let me see. Let's see if I can get your picture up. There we go. And now, tell me, what was it? Tell people what the bill is about and why you cared about it and why you drove 100 miles to go testify like that.
Well, this bill is essentially a version of a bill that the industry has been trying to push through for 5 or 6 years. The public doesn't want it, and yet they keep getting closer and closer to getting it passed. And so 2 years ago it died in a tie, and last year it did not get introduced because a lot of cannabis activists sort of took over the legislature, and we got medical cannabis passed last year. But this year they decided this was the year they're really going to push it, and what the bill does is it allows a gas company to force mineral owners to sign a lease even if they don't want to, or even if it's a bad lease, even if they might want to sign a lease, but they want to hold out for a better price, or they want to hold out for better conditions, get a better royalty, or a better down payment. They're not allowed to do that. They're locked into a bill that would force them to give up their property rights to corporations.
And so you were trying to expose that the people who are going to be deciding this, by the way, this is unpopular with the people, correct? People don't want this bill?
People don't want this bill. They've done a poll, but in the poll they didn't explain how the bill works. But the people who actually know about mineral rights, actual mineral owners who live out here in my district, don't want it. The West Virginia Mineral Owners Coalition is against it. And as a matter of fact, was a whole group this summer that got together of surface owners and mineral owners and different interests to try to come up with bills that would help the people who actually live out here in rural West Virginia. And when the industry tried to push forced pooling through some of those channels, we all said, no way. And so they stopped talking to the people who objected to that. And when it got reported in the papers, they kept saying that, everyone was on board with this bill, which was just a lie.
So what is forced pooling?
Forced pooling was an earlier version of the bill. It's such a poisonous term that they're trying to rebrand it now. They've changed the size of a pool from multiple tracts to a single tract.
So this has to do with mineral extractions, and oftentimes on a piece of property there'll be several different mineral owners, right? Because it gets passed down from generation to generation. That's kind of the story.
Right.
That's kind of the story. So if you have, say, 25% ownership on a piece of land, and 75% of the other owners go along with selling their mineral rights to this corporation, they now don't have to deal with you, the other 25%. They can just roll you over?
Right, and what that does too is it kills it kills local jobs where gas and oil men go and they try to negotiate with landowners, because they don't have to negotiate with 25% of the landowners now.
Right.
They can just force them to sign. It doesn't matter now. And then it's just it's and even aside from that, it's just stealing.
Yeah.
It's just stealing. Stealing is wrong.
And so they're legalizing stealing, and it's because you think that the money that they've taken in campaign donations. I love that you pointed out that the public's only given a minute 45 seconds, yet lobbyists can buy them whiskey and champagne all night for hours and talk to them for hours, right, at their fundraisers and at their all that. So that's at the Marriott, is what you said. So that was really interesting.
Yeah.
I think people. Go ahead.
There's a whiskey and wine fundraiser that they had at the Marriott that week. But, it's bad in West Virginia. For example, our crazy governor, Jim Justice, now has a citizen volunteer who is essentially a lobbyist who works for EQT Corporation, one of the pipeline companies. And so he's a volunteer. He gets to come and go as he pleases. He's not subject to ethics rules that lobbyists are subject to.
He's a volunteer. That's hilarious.
He's a volunteer. He's just a volunteer.
And so now,
and coincidentally, a lobbyist.
So that guy's name who threw you out, that's name was John Schott. Is that who that was?
Yes.
And so now you're running for the West Virginia House of Delegates. That's where you were speaking, correct?
Right.
So are you running for any of their jobs right there?
Yeah, the last guy who I called out, Jason Harshbarger, will be my opponent. So I'm running as a Democrat. He's running as a Republican. Neither of us has a primary opponent.
Okay, so now it seemed to me like why did they let you do that to us? It was when you got to his name is when they shut you down.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think he was just trying to think of what he could call me out of order for, because I wasn't making any personal insults. I was just reading off.
You were just reading off public
the money that passed his hands.
Yeah, that's just that's public information. That's not
right.
Right. That wasn't like some kind of slur you were throwing at them. That's all documented, and we can all find out how much they took. You know what I was surprised at is just how little money it took to bribe those guys.
Well, this is the side job. The money they get comes from when you work for Dominion. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you get some months off to work in the legislature. I don't know. Maybe that's how it works. I have no idea.
Okay.
You get to move into lucrative lobbying positions after you're done in the legislature.
Right.
You get, it's like the last delegate we had here, and he was pushing for forced pooling. This is the delegate we had before, Jason Harshbarger. He was pushing for forced pooling. coincidentally got a great royalty deal where he got something like 18% royalties, and yet the bill he was pushing would only provide 12% royalties forced on people.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
It's crazy how that works.
It's kind of crazy. So what's does it look good for you in your race? How's it look? I mean, you're a Democrat in West Virginia. How does that go?
Well, this state was blue not too awful long ago, but that said, my particular district has always been pretty Republican. But that being said, I think property rights is an issue that appeals to everyone. And, everyone I've talked to is also wanting to get the money out of politics. So I just feel like this would improve every party. So instead of this constant vicious division, we could actually talk about issues again. I mean, we're going to disagree on methods, where how we can help people maybe, but at least our representatives would be trying to help people. They're not trying to do that right now. They're trying to work for themselves and figure out how they can get more money and figure out how they can get elected. And that's not what I want my representative to be distracted by.
I agree with you. So that's fantastic. Well, it really backfired on them because people are passing that video of you around. How does that feel?
It's a little surreal. I keep thinking like it's going to be over soon. Like people are going to get tired of it, but I keep getting calls, and people are just very kind, sending me well wishes, and I apologize to people who have tweeted or messaged me or emailed me. I'm trying to find help so that I can respond to everyone. So that's really my concern. It's encouraging to know how much people care about this.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think people are done with having a bought government. I think they're stealing right out in the open, and just like what you just showed. And then when you want to talk about it, that's impolite. We got to shut you up. And it's just nice to see that again, when you try to suppress the truth, it backfires on them, and it created more attention to this issue than you could have ever dreamed could be drawn to this issue. With you, if they would have just let you speak, it would have went away and nobody would have been the wiser. But they had to try to shut you up, and it's just such a sweet irony and such a sweet victory, isn't it, Alyssa?
Yeah, it's. I try not to. I try to keep focused on the issue that
the bill
I want to change. So I'm looking forward to trying to figure out how to get this out there even more.
So has this been picked up in the West Virginia press at all?
Yeah, the Gazette has written about it. I got called again by the Gazette today, and I don't know, where that's happened. It was on at least one TV station. Our paper out here is just weekly, so I guess I'll find out tomorrow if it made the paper. And to be honest, it's possible that a lot of the press here has tried to contact me, and I've just not been able to find it because I literally have hundreds and hundreds of messages, and I'm doing my best to try to go through them.
Okay. Well, do you think, when do they vote on the bill?
Well, this was in front of the committee, so it went through the Energy Committee first, and they passed it. And I testified in front of the Judiciary Committee, and directly after that testimony period, that public hearing, they passed it. And interestingly, the committee had substituted a version that would have been better for mineral owners and surface owners. But when they passed it, they passed the original version. And when the Democrats, because luckily, at least in the House, the Democrats were going to stand up for property owners, when the Democrats asked, well, how did this happen? It turns out that those negotiations were secret. And, one wonders if they were with a citizen volunteer.
So
after that, it goes to the Senate, and if the Senate passes it, Governor Justice will sign it.
So that was in front of a committee. That was the Judiciary Committee?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that was just at a committee hearing. That's fantastic. All right. So do you think it had all this attention is having an effect? Are they a little afraid that they're being exposed, or is it just business as usual?
I don't know. I think they're probably more worried about the money than anything. Like, I don't think that they feel at all obligated to voters. I think they're concerned about the money. Yeah, I don't even think that John Schott has thought, gee, maybe I shouldn't have done that. I think he's thinking, how can I deflect this issue?
Yeah, I'm sure of it. Okay. Well, we'll check back in with you. What's your feeling on the bill? You think it's going to pass?
I hope not. In the full House, there are Republican Liberty Caucus kind of libertarian leaners that are opposed, and I don't know how many there are, and I hope that there are enough of them who are going to stand up for their constituents so that it doesn't pass. I mean, that would be a beautiful ending. I mean, the really tragic thing to me is that they're spending all this time and effort on this bill in order to take our rights away, and there are people in this district who don't have clean running water in their homes. Like, this is what they're spending time on, and this is why we have to get the money out. The industry wants this bill. Meanwhile, there are people who are boiling water on their stove to try to shower in.
Wow.
It's infuriating.
Yes, it is. People are upset. That's why I think people voted for Bernie Sanders. People are really ready for a revolution. People are ready to take their government back. Right now, Joe Manchin, he's your senator, correct?
Unfortunately.
So, yeah. Now, what's the talk about with Paula Jean Swearengin? Now, she's running against him.
I love Paula Jean. I love her to death. I will, because the Republicans, honestly, they're running just awful, awful people. Don Blankenship is who is running. I mean, he's the coal baron who killed 29 miners and was thrown in prison. So if Joe Manchin wins the primary, I'm going to have to swallow my bile and vote for him. But I will also say this, who has tweeted and done a live video and talked about getting the money out of politics and is only taking small donations? That's Paula Jean Swearengin. Who is conspicuously silent? Why, that would be Joe Manchin.
Yes, of course. Everybody knows that. Yeah. He's one of the, it's just, and it's not just Joe Manchin. It's pretty much look at the people you just talked to. Look at those people. It's the problem of our government, right? It's why we live in an oligarchy and we don't really live in a democracy. And we need people. And when, good people like you stand up, they try to take your microphone away, or they cheat Bernie out of a primary. And what do we get left with? Another corporatist warmongers. So I appreciate you standing up and fighting back, Lissa, and hopefully it will do some good, and good luck in your campaign. And if you ever want to talk to us again, let me know.
Thanks so much. It was really a pleasure to talk to you.
Okay, right back at you. Thanks again for your work.